Ghost in the Shell is directed by Rupert Sanders, and this is the latest film to be taken from its anime or animation roots and turned into live action. So the story of this film is that the Major, played by Scarlett Johansson, was a human turned now cyborg, and she's working with Section 9, and when there's a cyber terrorist by the name of Kuze, played by Michael Pitt, Section 9 and the Major have to find where he is and take him out. All while the Major is trying to connect pieces from her past and figure out who she was in the process, leading to this film. Now, I've seen the original 1995 Ghost in the Shell, and I love that movie. It is a really great film. It's actually almost a masterpiece in my opinion. That film is amazing. And that film raised so many interesting questions about where does humanity end and where does AI begin? Can the two coexist? And if so, how does the coexistence work? And how far can this relationship go? At what point do we lose our basic humanity? Many questions like that are raised in the original, and that's what made the original such a thought-provoking film, and so many analyses have been done about it because it is that kind of film which has had such an impact, which is why for 22 years nobody's tried to remake it until now. Audiences are split over this movie, critics are split over this movie. There is really no concrete definition of what people think of this film. So what did I think of this movie? Well, I liked it. I really liked it. I thought it was very solidly done. It's actually the best live-action adaptation of an anime I've seen. Ghost in the Shell is a visually stunning film, but aside from that, it is a lot more than just that. It does have problems. It is not a perfect film, but on overall scale, I enjoyed this movie a lot. So let's talk about the visuals first, because that is one of the best parts of this film. It's amazing. It is one of the most visually beautiful films I have ever seen. It looks gorgeous. The cinematography, the editing of the action sequences as well, everything looks spectacular. Expect a few visual effects nods for this when next year comes around, because this thing is beautiful to look at. It is such a gorgeous film. I can't wait to see this thing on Blu-ray. It's gonna look fantastic. This film is bursting with colors. There is just so much vividness in the simplest of shots. The framing of certain shots is done really well too, to mirror what was in the original film. And that is also so well done by Rupert Sanders and crew. It's great to see them nailing all these aspects and respecting the original source material. Now, like I said, the original one dealt with some very deep questions, some really thought-provoking elements. This movie doesn't deal with them as much as I thought they would, and that is honestly the biggest flaw of the movie for me. But otherwise, this film has something which is in place of it. This movie asks about the Major's past. Where did she come from? Who is she? What was her past like? What made her become the cyborg that she is, that we know now? That's something I thought was interesting, because in the original, they never really explored that. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the original film, but if there's one thing which you keep asking about, it's like, where'd she come from? Like, what was her past like? This is a film that explains that, and I thought they handled it in a very interesting manner. And it answered a few questions that I've had since I saw the original, like, how does this work? How does that work? How do all of these things connect to make the Major's character so well known now in lore? And I think that's incredibly handled. And I found that to be an improvement over the original, because the original skims past it, and this film takes its time to talk about it, which I thought was great. This film also has a beautiful score by Clint Mansell, who's composed a lot of Darren Aronofsky movies before, like Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream, and even Noah. It's such a great soundtrack. Is it as good as the original Kenji Kawai soundtrack? Some ways, yes. In some ways, it's on par with it, but it's definitely as good a score as that original one. The original theme, by the way, it does play in the movie, in case you're wondering. But let's talk a little bit more about the story of this film, because this is an original story taking in elements from the original one. The producers of the original did say that we don't want a carbon copy of the original film. We want it to be its own story while taking in elements of the original. And I think that's a very good idea. I was also a little worried about it though, because you're putting in an original story, but it can always affect what made the anime or the original one, for anything in that matter, so special. So that's why I went in with a little bit of skepticism. And this film, when it starts out, has a by-the-numbers storyline. At least it starts off like that. It starts off with like, oh, there's the villain, here's the hero, here's what the hero needs to do to stop the villain. Okay, fine, let's go. But that's the start of this film. As the film proceeds, it doesn't remain like that. It actually goes in some very interesting directions. And there are certain things that are revealed, certain plot twists that come up. And it kept me on the edge of my seat as things were revealed. So by the time the film ends, I was really satisfied with what they did with Major's character arc in this. And it may not be for everyone. A lot of people might not think it's a very good thing. A lot of people might think it's awful. But it resonated with me and I appreciated what they did. And by the end of the film, it made me feel for the Major's character. And I think that's a huge accomplishment considering that wasn't the original story. So let's talk about the controversy, because that is the million-dollar question on everyone's mind. How is Scarlett Johansson in this movie? And let's address the casting. Motoko Kusanagi was a Japanese woman, and she was put into the cyborg body, her brain was, and now she is this character, the Major. So that technically does make her Japanese, and in this film, she's white. Scarlett Johansson is white. A lot of people are very upset about that, and that's one of the reasons this movie has been getting a lot of early hate, and let's address that. Look, they could have cast a Japanese actress. They could have. There are a few that do come to mind. But that's not really my thing about casting in these movies, because I try to judge film more on the basis of the performance and not so much on the casting. You could have cast an Asian American actress or a Japanese actress to play this character, but in the end, if the person hadn't acted well, that would have not been a good thing either. So in the end result is what you see in the film, and that's the only thing I can judge because I didn't do the casting for this film. So I try not to make opinions about such things until I finally see it for myself, and then I judge what the final thing in the film is. So that is what I thought about Scarlett Johansson. She was good. She was good in the movie. She did a very good job representing the character. She handled the character very well. In the end, that's what mainly matters for me, so I would say I was satisfied with what she did. And all the other characters are very similar in that respect. They're all represented very well. I thought Bato was represented brilliantly in a very, very good manner. I thought that was very accurate to the character which I remember seeing in the original. And the faithfulness to the anime in all these respects is definitely in this movie. This film does an excellent job of paying respect to the original while also being its own thing. At times, though, this is not as complex as the original. This is definitely a more straightforward thing. And that is honestly one of the biggest problems of this film for me, is that I feel like they could have gone a little more into the thematic elements of the original one and the questions that that movie raised, but it didn't. It was more on the surface in terms of the ideologies that they talk about. But what they had in terms of the other storyline, the main story of this film, and the way that was executed was a ton of fun to see. And I enjoyed that about the film, and I found it well handled. I thought Kuze was a very good villain too. I didn't think that he was as great a villain as, say, the Puppet Master from the original one, but he did a pretty solid job, and the way his character comes around in the film and how his character arc is finally revealed, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was very well handled, and I thought it melded in with the story in a very good manner. In the end, this is a pretty controversial opinion because this film has been getting bashed a lot. I think that you should give the film a chance before jumping to any conclusions. I understand there is polarity amongst critics at this point in time, but I think for audiences, if you love the anime, if you love what they did in that film, then you will be satisfied with this film because it does pay respect to that. In terms of the casual moviegoer, I can see a lot of people not being able to connect with it as much. But overall, I really enjoyed this film. Is this movie as good as the original? No, it's not. It is definitely a step down, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie in any ways. I do recommend it actually, and even if you're not one of those people who is going to go into this film liking it as much as I do, for the visual spectacle, I am pretty sure you will get your money's worth. I'm gonna give Ghost in the Shell an 8.5 out of 10. I know, it's a crazy score to give considering the kind of backlash it's got in some places, but I think it's worth a chance. It's definitely worth a chance. I would like to see it again, and I think it was a well done adaptation. So Ghost in the Shell, have you seen it? What do you think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. I am very interested to hear what you people have to say about this film. You guys are the best. Thank you so much as always for watching. If you like this, please subscribe, and I will see you guys